So if you haven't noticed, Donald Trump has not really enjoyed how this midterm election went. He has been on a rampage, going off on DeSantis, on Fox, on other members of the Republican Party. He's all over the place. It's kind of interesting to watch. But some of his more unhinged tweets, or truths, or whatever you call them on Truth Social and other statements he's put out, have really shown that there's going to be a fight that's coming within the Republican Party. He's drawing a line in the sand between him and Ron DeSantis. He's been talking a lot of smack about him. He's calling out other leading members of the Republican Party. And it's interesting because he's calling out people who have won their re-elections. So there's that kind of dynamic as well where Trump lost, but he's, you know, shouting about people who just won their re-election campaign or their elections for the first time. One of his more unhinged rants just goes to show you how highly he thinks of himself. And, it's interesting because we could sit here and we could laugh about, how ridiculous Trump sounds, but he was the president of the United States. He was the most powerful person in the world. He had access to the nuclear codes, access to state secrets, etc. And this is the kind of stuff that he's saying in public to millions of people right now. So if we look at these tweets, he's sitting here saying, if CNN were smart, they would open up a conservative network, only have me on, and it would be the most successful network in history, with a capital H for some reason. It's amazing how he thinks that he by himself on a network would be the best thing ever. And it's funny because if he really believed that, why not just create, the Trump network? He hasn't done that yet, right? Because he knows that that's not true. But it's incredible that this is how this man's brain works. He continues, Fox only made it because of me. Twitter only made it because of me. And even Facebook is now in the tubes, having lost 90 billion. So again, he thinks, the world revolves around him. Everybody's success or failure is directly related to him. Unless, of course, he's talking about his picks for his candidates, because if the candidates lose, he doesn't want to be blamed. But if the candidates win, he wants all the credit.
Well, I think if they win, I should get all the credit. And if they lose, I should not be blamed at all. Okay. But it'll probably be just the opposite.
But it's just really amazing because if you think about this man, again, he was the president, he was in charge of a lot. And this is how he thinks. Everything is just all about him. We can't let this man or anybody else who is like him, Ron DeSantis, win election. We cannot let them be the president of the United States. It is far too important a job. It is just incredible how, they're so self-centered. And obviously most politicians are to some degree. I guess you have to be, especially if you're trying to run for president, thinking that you can solve all these problems. But Trump takes it to a different level. And it's not just, these tweets that or these truths that he's been, putting out there. This one was particularly amazing. He's on a rant about Ron DeSantis, and he says that he fixed his campaign, which was completely fallen apart. I was all in for Ron, and he beat Gillum, but after the race, when votes were being stolen by the corrupt election process in Broward County, and Ron was going down tens of thousands of votes a day, along with now Senator Rick Scott, I sent in the FBI and U.S. attorneys, and the ballot theft immediately ended. So is Trump admitting to tampering with the last election that allowed for Ron DeSantis and Senator Rick Scott to win? Because this sounds really shit. I stopped the election from being stolen. What does that mean exactly? Did he stop valid votes from being counted? Were there actually FBI agents and members of the Department of Justice that somehow altered the last election? I don't know. I mean, Trump obviously makes a lot of wild claims, many of which have no basis in reality. But this is a pretty far out there thing to say. And I hope somebody's looking into this, because if there's any truth to this whatsoever, that there was election tampering by the former president, that's a big deal. He's also gone on to these other just insane rants. I mean, talking about Governor Youngkin in Virginia. And just look at this. I'm not even going to read this out because it doesn't, warrant it. But he is just on a tirade right now. He's going after Fox. He's going after the Murdochs. He's going after members of his own party, leadership in his own party. And, there's going to be a fight coming in the House and the Senate for, who's in charge, committee assignments, things like that, especially if the Republicans win both. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of years when the election cycle picks up for the 2024 elections, not just in the House and Senate, but especially the presidential race. By all accounts, it looks like Trump is going to run. Clearly, he has it in for DeSantis. DeSantis obviously wants to run. So, that fight will be very interesting to watch what happens in the Republican Party. So, get your popcorn ready.